It's been a year and whole year since I told my husband, "You're just the father of my kids, not my soulmate." At a block party. Sounds like the setup to a bad joke, right? Except the joke's on me. Justin is engaged now. Her name's Ashley, and she's exactly the type of woman I used to roll my eyes at CrossFit addict meal prep queen, the kind of person who actually enjoys farmers markets instead of just pretending for Instagram. But the worst part? She's genuinely nice, and somehow that makes everything sting even more. My kids adore her. My daughter Emma came home last week talking about how Ashley taught her how to braid her hair the right way and baked cookies from scratch. You know, all the little things I used to roll my eyes at and claim were overrated. Now I can't stop wondering if I should have done them instead. But let's backtrack a little so you understand how I completely fumbled the best thing that ever happened to me. Before we get into the mess I created, make sure you subscribe for daily real-life stories that will keep you hooked. Alright, now let me tell you how I ruined my own life. Justin and I had been married for 10 years. We weren't perfect, but we were solid. Or at least I thought we were. He was steady, reliable. The kind of guy who never forgets to take the trash out or check the tire pressure before a road trip. He wasn't flashy, he wasn't exciting, but he was there. Always. And honestly, maybe that was the problem. Over time, I started seeing him less like my partner and more like just background noise. We had 2 kids, a mortgage, and the usual routine work, school pickups, PTA meetings, grocery runs, rinse and repeat. Somewhere along the way, I convinced myself that this wasn't enough. That I was missing something. Some spark, some excitement. I let social media convince me that I was settling, that I deserved some grand, passionate, movie-worthy love story. I started comparing Justin to men I saw online. The ones who whisked their wives away on spontaneous vacations or wrote long poetic captions about their love. Justin wasn't that guy. His love was practical packing my car with snacks before a long drive, rubbing my shoulders after a stressful day, remembering how I like my coffee without me ever asking. But instead of appreciating that, I started resenting it. And then came the block party. God, I wish I could go back and slap myself before I opened my mouth. We were all drinking, laughing, the music was loud, and someone started talking about relationships. "How do you know you married your soulmate?" someone asked. And before I could even think, the words were out of my mouth. "Oh, Justin's not my soulmate. He's just the father of my kids." It got a laugh. A big one. People love a little scandal, a little drama. And I basked in it, feeling bold, feeling like I had just said something profound. But then I turned to Justin. He wasn't laughing, he wasn't even smiling. His face had gone completely blank, and that's when I felt it. That sharp, sinking feeling in my gut that told me I had just messed up. Badly. He didn't say anything. Not that night. Not even the next morning. But something shifted. He stopped reaching for my hand when we walked side by side. He stopped calling me babe absent-mindedly while doing chores. He still did everything he always did, helped with the kids, mowed the lawn, fixed things around the house, but it felt different. It felt like he had pulled back, like he had wrapped himself in some invisible armor I couldn't touch. And then a few months later, he sat me down and told me he wanted a divorce. I laughed at first because it had to be a joke. Justin wasn't the type to just walk away. He was predictable, stable. "Justin, come on. You're overreacting," I said, rolling my eyes. But he wasn't. He had already spoken to a lawyer. He'd already looked at apartments. He had already decided. The divorce was clean, almost too easy. He didn't fight me on custody, didn't drag me through court. We split things fairly. And just like that, the life I had taken for granted was gone. The first few months after he left, I told myself it was for the best, that now I had the chance to find something more exciting, more passionate. But all I found was a series of disappointing first dates with men who barely remembered my kids' names, let alone cared about them. I found late nights scrolling through my phone, watching Justin's life unfold without me in it. I saw pictures of him smiling, really smiling for the first time in years. And then I saw Ashley. At first, I told myself she was just a rebound, that he was just filling the void. But the more I saw, the more I realized that he wasn't just moving on. He was happy. And my kids? They loved her. They gushed about her. About how she made their favorite pancakes. About how she sat through their soccer games and actually cheered. And the worst part? She didn't seem like she was trying to replace me. She just fit. Naturally. Effortlessly. It's funny, isn't it? How I spent years convincing myself that Justin wasn't enough, only to realize that I was the one who wasn't enough for him. That I had taken him for granted, believing he would always be there, no matter what. But people aren't infinite. Love isn't infinite. Push someone away long enough, and eventually, they'll stop reaching back. I saw him last week at my son's school event. He was standing with Ashley, his arm casually around her waist, both of them laughing at something my daughter said. For a split second, I wanted to run up, to interrupt, to remind him that this was my family first. But then he turned, met my eyes, and gave me a polite smile. Not cold, not angry, just indifferent. And that's when it hit me. Justin didn't hate me. He didn't love me either. He was just done with me. And somehow that hurt more than anything else. So here I am, sitting in my apartment, staring at my phone, debating whether or not to text him, to say I'm sorry, to ask if we can try again, but I already know the answer. He's moved on. And now, I have to figure out how to do the same. But before you go, let me give you one final piece of advice, Karish, what you have before you lose it. Because sometimes once it's gone, you don't get a second chance. And if you love stories like these, don't forget to subscribe for more real-life stories that will keep you on the edge of your seat.